Okay, so you're going through the recruiting process, you're about to go through the recruiting process. Here are the three biggest problems that families have throughout the recruiting process that stalls them and stops them from getting college football scholarships. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Trent Loera. I'm a former college quarterback. I help families with your first scholarship, or help families get their first scholarship and more. So the first problem is people don't get enough coaches to notice them. And there's a bunch of different words that kind of mean this, but exposure, interest, connections, relationships, all that stuff means that if you feel like you have a lack of that, that means that you're not getting enough coaches to know about you or to notice you or to watch your film or whatever it might be. And so this is such an issue, and this is the biggest issue anybody should worry about, because I'll just say, like, I was just counting this up, I've hopped on probably 600 calls with families about recruiting over the past year and a half, and probably 90% of them, 95% of them have this issue. So that's really what we try to solve a lot of times, and we've become really good at it. And now, why this is such a big issue is because if coaches don't know who you are, then you can't get a scholarship. It's as simple as that. And so most of your time should be dedicated to solving that issue. A lot of time people focus too much on the skill side, and they focus on the film side and all this stuff, and they think that, if I'm good enough, they will notice me. But that's really a fallacy. That's a logical fallacy, saying that once I'm good enough, then they will notice me, when in reality, once they notice you, then you will become good enough to them because they actually know who you are. And so it's like, when will they actually know if you're good or not if they just never know about you in the first place? And how are they going to actually know about you in the first place if you never actually tell them? And so you need to get in front of them as much as possible. Number two is turning that interest into scholarships. This is like the second issue that I hear oftentimes is like, hey, we've gotten a couple of responses. They've sent over the questionnaire, but then we hear nothing from them. Or, hey, we've gotten a couple of visits. We went into a couple of camps. We got a couple things, and they tell us, oh, hey, you're on our board, or hey, send us some more film, or hey, we're interested. We just a couple guys ahead of you, or whatever it might be. But oftentimes it's an unclear sense of direction on if this is going to turn into a scholarship or not, and they're unsure about how to go about it the right way without being annoying to actually turn this interest, these relationships, these responses, these conversations into actual scholarships. And I'll be honest, there's no magic button, so I'm not going to say something like, say these 5 words and you're getting a scholarship. That's not true. But what it comes down to is you don't have enough proof to the coach. Because if you had tons of proof, if the coach had like 100% confidence that you were going to be an absolute star on their team, would they offer you a scholarship? Yes. So what can we do to prove to them that you 100% deserve a scholarship? That's what you should do. And that's what we try to do, is just show them ample amount of proof in every single way possible that you can imagine. And it's not just film. And so that's really the key there. Now, the third thing is kind of a combination of it all. It's just not knowing exactly what to do next. Too many families don't know what to do next. I don't blame anybody if you're listening to this, watching my videos, and you're like, you're wondering why there's not too much out there. It's just, the truth is not too many people that have gone through the process really care to share their expertise. And oftentimes the people sharing their expertise don't really know what they're talking about. Maybe they coached college ball for a year or two. Maybe they went through the recruiting process. But they really don't understand the process at a deeper level of what it really is, which is a game outside of a game of, marketing yourself as an athlete and then building relationships on top of that. And it's a very complex one. And so there's not much out there on it. You can Google it, and then you're going to find a couple of generic articles out there. And it's really not going to give you, it's going to be generic advice, which everybody generally does, which about 2% of families get college football scholarships. So if you do what everybody else does and you get in that 50% percentile, you're still 48% behind of getting an actual scholarship. And so the last thing you want to do is just do what everybody else is doing. And so you want to avoid that confusion. You want to get full clarity on exactly what you're doing. And so those are the 3 biggest problems. Now, how you solve them: number one, with getting coaches to know about you. That's the biggest issue, and it's also the biggest fix. If we can just get more coaches to know about you, then instantly problems number 1 and 2 will become fixed, because the more coaches you can get interested in you, the more surface area opportunities that you have to get a scholarship. And so it becomes less of an issue of like, oh, well, this turned into a scholarship, well, this turned into a scholarship. If you have 100 coaches that you're talking to, you're not really worried if one of them is going to turn into a scholarship. One of them is probably going to turn into a scholarship. And so that's what the issue is, like when you have 2 coaches that you're talking to and you're like, shoot, what if neither of these turned into a scholarship? Instead, why don't we just get like 25 more coaches interested in you and make it really easy? And so you just have to get more of them to know about you. And you do that through social media, you can do it through email, you can do it through camps, you can do it through a bunch of different ways. The key is just to do a lot of it and do it really good, so that way you can get more eyes on you. And that's really the key there. Now, number 2, turning that interest into offers. Now, it really comes down to just, again, proof. I talked about that ample times. And again, it comes down to doing more and doing better, doing more proof, showing more proof to them, because if you're consistently showing proof to them, it just stacks up. It's not like it's just like, oh, here's one thing, here's one thing, here's one thing, and they get annoyed by it. No, what happens is you show it over time, it just stacks, and they're like, oh my gosh, this kid's legit. Because who are they going to offer? The kid that they see 8 different forms of video proof of you balling out on the field, or are they going to offer the kid that they've only seen, his season highlights from last year? Pretty obvious at that point. And so that's what we want to do. We want to really show them as much as we can, and then just build relationships on top of that, and really get to know them, and just be human as well. And then the last one, not knowing exactly what to do next. You want to make sure you craft together a game plan. And I think that's a big pitfall, is just not knowing exactly where you're going. It's recruiting for most families feels like they're driving this crazy out of control car instead of like knowing exactly where they're going and having a GPS. And so you want to build out that GPS of like, okay, here's our goal, here's where we're at right now. Okay, how can we navigate to that goal in the most easiest, quickest, and simplest way possible? And so that's really your goal there. So that is the 3 biggest problems. That's the best ways to solve them as well. And so just the biggest thing is making sure to take action on this stuff, and execute to the best of your ability. And if you want help solving any of those issues, we've helped at this point probably close to 100 families. I sadly haven't counted, but we just keep on stacking great results. So if you want, you can go to our page, call.yourfirstscholarship.com. You can book a call with me there, and we can talk more about, hey, if you actually need our help, and if you do, what that would look like. So also, if you like this and want more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. Peace.